Welcome guys to another video from DataSolve. My name's Christian Lofts, and in today's video I'm going to go over how I used AI to generate my modern web app. With that said, hope you have your favorite beverage, coffee, iced latte, iced long black, it doesn't matter. We're going to get into today's video, the nuts and bolts. With that said, let's jump straight into today's video. Ching! Alrighty, modern web apps with AI, transforming spreadsheets into web apps. Now this is a flow on from my previous video. I've added a few more features, so I thought I would provide an online documentation. Okay, a bit about this video before we get into the nuts and bolts. So, I am from DataSolve. We specialize in data pipelines, dashboards, web app creation, you name it, we can do it. Get in touch with us today. Now, today's presentation / video is going to be high level. We're not going to go too far down the rabbit hole. Keep things fresh, fast, and moving at a decent pace. Lastly, as you all know, it is AI assisted. I have generated most of the back end and front end through AI. So building with ChatGPT, was it easy? Was it hard? It was frustrating. At times, I needed to re-prompt the system many times before I had the desired outcome. And my strategy was to isolate components in my code base, and then prompt the model to give me the desired outcome for that. So I'll give you a bit of an example of how I would prompt ChatGPT to understand my code base. So I had a Python script here which would generate the file structure of my code, and I would just copy and paste that in. So it would have a high level understanding of the structure and which files to call. And I would repeatedly do that to refresh its memory in order to get the desired outcome. So that was basically a way for me to feed in my structure into the ChatGPT model for it to have context. Okay, moving on to the architecture. So the architecture of my web app consisted of Supabase as an open source, Backend as a service. Now they provide their own authentication library, obviously storage and real-time APIs. So we integrated Supabase into the front end, React via the API, via JavaScript. And React is a JavaScript library for building interactive user interfaces with reusable components. Containerized in Vercel, a cloud platform for deploying web apps with fast global hosting and seamless CI/CD integration. Workflow. So I'm going to show you one very basic workflow. It's probably the most commonly used workflow in the app, but here it is. So you've got the end user. They can either log in through a magic link or through a password. And once they are logged in, depending if they're an admin or not, they can say view, update, or delete, and they have extra functionality. Luckily, with Supabase, they have their own authentication library, as mentioned previously. Sign in with OTP is used for the magic link. Sign in with password obviously is used for the sign in with password. Now, front-end functionality, I'm just going to show you some libraries that I used in my front end. So Tailwind CSS to manage the CSS, Recharts for the visuals, Lottie for the animation. I had one animation I used on my dashboard, React Modal just to obviously give a modal for the end user, React Toastify, which is pop-up alerts. Alright guys, moving into the backend functionality. So as you all know, I am using Supabase as the backend as a service. The beauty about using Supabase is that you can write functions in PostgreSQL. Now I'm going to go over a high-level description of one of the functions, which was to convert an Excel workbook into data that can be inserted into the database. So there were many steps. So within the front end, I use the XLSX library, and I believe this just gives the front end the ability to read through Excel documents and then convert the content to a JSON object. But effectively, once we have that JSON object, I am passing that to the Supabase backend function. And then effectively what that function is doing is it will insert into the necessary tables, and then it will return a validation whether that was successful or not successful. Obviously, there's a bit more to it than that, but in its entirety, I am reading a Excel workbook and converting the contents into data that can be inserted into my backend database. All right, guys, let's finalize this video by giving you a demonstration. Alrighty, so this is where all the magic happens. Now, I'm not going to explain the business logic, so please don't ask me about the business logic. I'm just going to show you how things work and basically a feel of the front-end interface. This has all been designed by me, so once the user logs in, they'll see the admin dashboard and they can make or see the necessary components on the left or the calculations. So we're going to click on rates. Now, one thing to note in the rates calculation, there are 3 components. One thing to note is we first need to choose our data agreement. Let's say we want to look at the calculations for 2025 quarter 1. So this is the level 1 rate, level 2 rate, level 3 rate. And these are the mid-level calculations. So we can see here the mid-level here, and we can then drill down into the actual specific tables which hold the granular details, the granular data. By the way, the user can actually update the backend values from the front end by clicking on the relevant table. So if they want to update the rate, let's say they want to update the amount, they just click on this pencil, 101, and there should be a verification message up the top right to notify the user that this has been updated. And this will be sent to the update log also. This is so the user can get a feel of what calculations are going in the back end. They can validate their own data, etc. So that's it from the calculations. And we also have the option of presenting a nice little graph which will show you let's go to 2023. These are the data agreements which have the top 5 rates. So we can see here Queen's Wharf at the top and CF MMEU 2023 at the bottom. Mind you, this is all public information. So having said that, those are the 3 components of this, and there's one lucky last component I want to show you, which is upload Excel. So let's say the user has another data agreement they want to add. They can simply click here. Now there is a template that I've provided. So the user needs to fill the template out, make sure that all the necessary fields are filled out. So we're gonna add in Bob's Construction. I mean, it's so funny because we're converting Excel to apps, but we can't escape Excel. It's just so practical, isn't it? All the accountants can agree with that. So choose file, we're gonna upload that. Now we're gonna pass the worksheet. So what this is doing is my application will read the actual Excel document. We just want to verify that things are as they seem, and then we want to validate. Cool, data validated and inserted successfully. So there are a bunch of tables in the back end, and I've inserted all this data into the back end. But for now, this is what it is. So I've validated that. Let's click on cancel. Now, Bob's Construction is now in the database, and it is now visible in the list of data agreements. All right, guys, so that's been the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give me a subscribe, a like, or get in touch if you would like to develop something amazing. I'm Christian from DataSolve, and have an awesome day.